Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. We're going to have a great show today. My guest, Dr. Steve Ensley, who's a veterinary toxicologist, and we're going to run through a series of different toxicology issues he's been seeing out in the country in different cases. It's just remarkable work that he does here at Iowa State University. Thanks for joining us today for the show.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
Dr. Ensley, welcome to DocTalk.
Thanks a lot. Really appreciate being here.
You bet. Folks, we're on the road at Iowa State University. I'm here with Dr. Steve Ensley, who's a veterinary toxicologist, and he's the head of the veterinary toxicology section here in veterinary production, veterinary diagnostic and production animal medicine at the College of Vet Med at Iowa State University. Yes. Kansas native.
Yes.
And I'm glad to shoot this here with the nice Flint Hills in the background and
all right.
bring you back home. But
all right.
We're going to talk about toxicology and some of the issues that we're seeing. And lead is the first one we have on the list.
Right. We had a case, pretty devastating case of lead toxicosis in a feedlot. Actually, it was feedlot and some cow-calf pairs. A lead battery from the tractor had accidentally got mixed in with the feed, and we've had about 85 dead animals from the feedlot and another 10 cow-calf pairs out of the 15 they had that have died. And so, and from northwest Iowa. So it's been pretty devastating to the producer, trying to sort out the food residue issues on the live animals, is another concern. Plus, how do we dispose of all the dead animals with this significant lead exposure? So the typical cases we see calves when they go to grass in the summer and May, when they get exposed to the fencer batteries and consume lead that way. So this case is fairly rare, but it's high dollar volume and big impact.
So then on the live animal side, and that I assume you're gonna have to do some sort of muscle biopsy or tissue biopsy to see where we're at?
Correct. So the food residue issues with lead, in the muscle, liver, kidney, blood, we can check whole blood, and hopefully that's going to be reflective of what the other levels are. But we've got samples right now that's what we're looking at. Lead. We're looking at lead in the bone, in the muscle, in the fat, and those other tissues too. So.
The other interesting toxicology case you said with these indoor facilities being built is the hydrogen sulfide issues.
Right. We've in the last 10 years, confinement buildings for cow-calf operations and even feedlots have been increasing in Iowa because our land costs are expensive. We don't have the land to build or house animals, so we've built a lot of confinement buildings. And this year, in the last 2 weeks, we've had issues with hydrogen sulfide from the pits getting up into the floor where the animals are and causing significant death loss on those facilities too. So,
well, when you look at intensifying agriculture, obviously there's some things that we're going to see. What has there been is the pits? It was deep packed for a while, and now we're seeing more pits being included. Right,
and I don't really understand why the pits have gotten popular again. The deep packs we didn't have the hydrogen sulfide issue with. So in Iowa, we've got to get the manure hauled out in a timely manner. We've got a short window of time for when the crops are harvested before it freezes. So that's always that's always an issue, trying to get the pits depleted before we run out of time. And so
sure.
Yeah, it's a significant issue for us because of land. Iowa's corn ground's $20,000 an acre, so it's hard to put animals on. So
corn is king. We're going to wrap up here. Watch for the batteries on lead toxicosis. Watch your pits on hydrogen sulfide. More with Dr. Steve Ensley from Iowa State University after these messages.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information.
Buying a car shouldn't be this hard. And at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, it isn't. It's actually awesome. Whether you want a new or used car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. Even if you want to custom order a new car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. See Toby's team at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're awesome.
This segment is brought to you by Santa Fe Trail Meats in Overbrook, or visit us online at sftmeats.com.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. We're on the road in Ames, Iowa with Dr. Steve Ensley here. He's a veterinary toxicologist and the head of the veterinary toxicology section. We're thankful to have you on the show and talk about issues, and we're going to talk about poisonous plants and some of the issues that you've been seeing lately with poisonous plants.
So poisonous plants this time of year can be an issue because we gather cattle. Sometimes we gather cattle, put them in a pen, hope to get them all worked that day. We don't, so they stay in there overnight and they're hungry and they'll eat the plants in the pen. That can be an issue. But the two biggest issues we see, and right about when we have frost, are cyanide or prussic acid poisoning with the feeds that they can consume, and also nitrate toxicity. So those two, we do a lot of testing for that, but it's a big issue, even in Iowa where we don't typically have drought, issues.
So talk to me a little bit about how it occurs at the time of frost, or what's the association with that?
So what the prussic acid or cyanide toxicity associated with frost is, the cyanide's contained in the plant, but it's separate from the enzymes that can activate the cyanide or produce the cyanide. So when the plant is crushed or we harvest it or make silage out of it, we get a spike in cyanide release at that time, and freezing will do the same thing. It'll fracture that plant, allow the cyanide to get access to the enzymes that will activate cyanide. So the 72 hours post-frost is a big risk time, so we don't want to feed it or ensile it or green chop it and use it then, but we sow. And the varieties that we have are produce less cyanide than we have had in the past, but we still see that as a constant issue. And it's an acute toxicity, die very rapidly, and we do have antidotes, but the issue is they can die within a half an hour when they consume that. So it's quick.
Pretty quick.
It's very quick.
Deal. When we think about poisonous plants, what are some of the plants people should be thinking about or looking out for?
Probably the number one plant that kills more animals in the Midwest than any other plant is actually Japanese yew. It's an ornamental plant that's planted around the houses. People harvest or clean up the house, trim the fences or trim the bushes, and then throw it over to a brush pile. And a handful of leaves will kill a 2,000-pound bull. So they're very sensitive to that, and they don't tolerate that. We have no antidote for that, and it's very acute. Again, it can kill animals within minutes, actually, when they consume that.
So if you're trimming up the trees and shrubs around the house, don't be throwing them out in the brush pile where the cows.
Right. It looks like cedar. A lot of people think it's a cedar bush, but the Japanese yew is a common ornamental, and the toxin it contains is very, very potent. It kills everything but deer. People plant to kill deer and it won't kill deer, but it can. So it's a highly poisonous plant that we deal with.
What about acorns and buckeyes? We have that on the list, and we got about a minute till commercial. But
so we see the potential for acorn toxicity. Oak trees in the pasture is a real issue every year, but usually it takes a perfect storm of short grass, an early frost. The animals are hungry. We'll drop acorns and they'll overconsume because that's all they have to eat. And so even though every pasture we have in the Midwest has oak trees either in the pasture or next to it, it's a potential every year, but we don't see that often. This year, buckeye is also an issue. We had a good buckeye toxicosis in Nebraska, so that's always fun to see.
I saw one where the calves, you opened up the room and they're just full of buckeyes.
Right. That's always what I tell the students. If an animal dies from acorns or buckeyes, it's not that you won't miss it, because when you open them up, you'll have a 40-gallon rumen with 50 gallons of acorns or buckeyes, and you wonder how in the world they could consume that, but they will. They'll do it.
Well, we're going to take a break, folks. We're going to come back and talk more about toxicology with Dr. Steve Ensley.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
I'm Rexanne Struve, veterinarian in Western Iowa. I have a veterinary clinic and started doing stem cell therapy on dogs in August of 2014. And after the first 2 dogs, after 3 weeks, I saw such dramatic results. I said, hey, I have arthritis. I have joints that really need this help. Where can I go to get this done? I had stem cell therapy done in November of 2014 on my finger joints, my hip, and the ball of my left foot, all of which I'd had real severe problems with. Saw a pretty dramatic improvement in a short amount of time. I would certainly recommend that somebody don't wait until I'm in the position that I was in with the damage already done to my joints. I encourage veterinarians to use it for their animals, and I encourage anybody who sees this video, if you have need, get in contact with these people, because this is a phenomenal place to have this done.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com. The BQA Tip of the Day, sponsored by Beringer Engelheim Vetmedica, Inc.
Hello, Dr. Nels Lindberg here with the Production Animal Consultation and Animal Medical Center out of Great Bend, Kansas. And today for your BQA tip, we're thinking about VFDs. VFDs, you're all kind of getting in tune with them and figuring out maybe what you got to do. If you're not, you really need to catch up and get with your veterinarian and start having those conversations. But first and foremost, you need a valid veterinary client-patient relationship. And if you don't have one of those, you really need to address that and get after it and get that done. From there, work with your veterinarian closely so that you're not scrambling to get those things done. And that's what our biggest concern is people prolonging and waiting to actually get those things done. And come January, February, when you need a VFD, you can't get one done in timely fashion like what you really want. So get with your veterinarian and get after it and get it done and keep at it.
Here's another gardening tip with Annette Jackson from Jackson's Greenhouse.
Fall is the best time to fertilize cool season lawns such as fescue or bluegrass. Fertilome Lawn Food Plus Iron is the best product available, formulated specifically for the Midwest.
It also contains iron and other micronutrients necessary for the greenest lawn in your neighborhood. Bring in a soil sample for a free pH test while you wait. We'll see you at Jackson's.
Our entire stock of shrubs, roses, berries, perennials, and trees are now on sale at 25% off.
Jackson's Greenhouse has what you need today.
No matter where, no matter why, the Veterinary Health Center at Kansas State University is committed to providing quality patient care to animals and exceptional customer service to their owners. From routine checkups to emergency and specialty care, our world-renowned specialists and experienced professionals are here to discover, to teach, and to heal.
Let us know.
How can I help?
How can we help?
This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson here with Dr. Steve Ensley, who's a veterinary toxicologist and the head of the veterinary toxicology section here at Iowa State University's College of Veterinary Medicine. We're proud to call him a fellow K-Stater and Wildcat as well, and so we kind of crossed paths. You went to K-State and teach at Iowa State, and I went to Iowa State and teach at K-State.
Right. So yeah, I get to have a lot of interaction, with Dan. That's always great. I'd say I taught him all he knows about toxicology. So
he did in veterinary school, and as you can tell, I got a pretty good education and understanding of toxicology and its importance, but Steve, we have water deprivation and urea toxicosis is a couple of.
So the issues with that, urea toxicosis, this is the time of year when if we're short on protein, we can add down protein nitrogen to the diet, relatively inexpensively, but it has to be managed well. So we see cases where animals overconsume urea, they have a hard time mixing it in a ration, or they don't get if they're restricted to their 1 pound of protein a day, if they have access to more and they overconsume, again, it's a toxicosis about like cyanide or nitrate, where it's very acute. Within a half an hour of when they consume that, depending on the dose, we can start to see clinical signs and acute deaths. And so that's one of the typical management errors that we see, in the fall and winter time, because it's commonly fed then.
Yeah, we always tell them no more than 1% of diet dry matter as urea is the urea rule. If you can keep that way, we'll be safe.
Right. Yeah. Dan's a nutritionist. I don't pretend to be a nutritionist, so I always visit with them to get the straight.
I cause the problem.
Right. So we see with liquid supplements, particularly, if they're not managed correctly, if they're not agitated prior to use, or they're put into a tank and then the tank gets low, it'll concentrate sometimes, and so. It's a common feed additive, very, very inexpensive, and something we will use, but the potential for a toxicosis is high.
What about the you have water deprivation, but water deprivation and water toxicities can be issues, right?
Right. So we see this time of year, especially as we get into the colder parts, if we have animals that their water device gets frozen, or they can't get if they're watering from a device that freezes over and they don't get access to water. And in the wintertime, because of less heat and less high temperature, maybe they can tolerate it for a longer period of time. But we do see, even in cattle, in swine in Iowa, we see an issue where the water lines freeze, they don't get water. But in cattle, we still see the issue where the owner maybe not, they're supposed to break the ice every day or make sure they have water, and somebody's not paying attention, or they miss that detail. And so we typically see, as long as they don't have access, they don't see signs. It's when they get re-access to water after they've been deprived for a period of time is when we see the issue. And again, it can be a very acute toxicity also, within an hour to 2 hours of when they got access to water again, you'll see clinical signs.
Well, fascinating work. I always enjoy listening to toxicology cases.
We get all the crazy ones. We're actually one of the few diagnostic labs with a toxicology section in the Midwest, so we get a wide variety of cases from really all over the U.S. and even international cases. So it's toxicology at Iowa State's always very interesting.
Yeah, well, it's a great service. If you have a toxicology issue, this is the man to send it to. We're going to take a break, and we'll come back and wrap up toxicology with Dr. Steve Ensley here at Iowa State University.
Tallgrass Commodities offers producers bulk commodities at a reasonable price with reliable service throughout the whole Midwest. To find out more about Tallgrass Commodities, visit tallgrass.us or call 785-494-8484.
Healthy cows start with the new Hired Hand automatic livestock sprayer. Rancher invented to provide an efficient alternative to pour-on and injectable parasite management systems. The portable design allows cattle to treat themselves head to hoof. Strategic device placement with pass-through activation technology takes the stress out of parasite treatment for cattle and the rancher, leaving more time to tend to other vital tasks on the farm. To learn more, visit cowsprayer.com. The new Hired Hand makes healthy cows easy.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
This Meet the Future Veterinarian is brought to you by Zuprevo. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment. Lacey Robinson is a fourth-generation producer who grew up on an Angus cattle operation. Her interest in food animal medicine runs deep. Working on the ranch from a young age helped develop her love for all aspects of beef production and animal husbandry. She and her fiancé have a small Angus herd in the Flint Hills north of Manhattan and market bulls to commercial cattlemen. Broadband has become as important to us as highways. That is why DocTalk is teaming up with NTCA, the Rural Broadband Association, and rural broadband companies like Blue Valley Telecommunications in fighting for quality broadband access through the program Smart Rural Communities.
I don't think we have any idea what's coming in the future. I couldn't have imagined 5 years ago what we're doing today. So in 2 years, I would guess there's things we can't imagine that we're going to be doing.
To learn more, visit ntca.org/smart or bluevalley.net.
KFRM is one of the largest farm radio stations in the nation, dedicated to informing and entertaining rural listeners from northern Oklahoma to southwestern Nebraska. You can catch KFRM in many ways, of course, 550 on the AM dial, streaming at kfrm.com, or on your smartphone by going to the TuneIn Radio app, or on Ag AM in Kansas on Tuesdays and Facebook every day of the week. KFRM, tune us in. You'll be glad you did.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson here with Dr. Steve Ensley, who's a veterinary toxicologist and the section head of veterinary toxicology here at Iowa State University's College of Veterinary Medicine. And you know, when we bring people on the show, they're very busy. Dr. Ensley is no exception to that rule, but to get the opportunity, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Yeah, well, I like the opportunity because toxicology is probably the most interesting part of veterinary medicine. And the more we can talk about it, the better it is.
Well, it is interesting as long as it's happening on somebody else's place, but not mine. But there are some things that you're seeing here with trace minerals and vitamins. That's kind of been a shift, though, from not having enough to having too much.
Right. So we have some really good products, and you know, and so they've been introduced to the market, well used, and if they're used correctly, we see no issues. And supplementation or deficiencies have been an issue and continue to be an issue with copper, selenium, vitamin A, vitamin E. We still see those as issues, and so we need to supplement usually. And so if we over supplement, that's where we also become involved. And so we've got a machine that we use that can measure a variety of trace minerals at one time, and we also look at vitamin A, vitamin E consistently. And so some of the issue is not just the deficiencies that we normally look at, but the potential overuse, because there's several products, especially if they're used together, mineral supplementations that we see issues with. So. They're good products used just like any product. When they're not used correctly, that's when toxicology becomes involved. But so one thing, we do a lot of liver biopsies. We look at a lot of trace minerals in livers, and I think that's for copper. Really, liver is the only tissue that really tells you what that status is. Serum just won't. In fact, serum is usually whatever the serum level is. The liver level will be the opposite of that. So we get a lot of confusing findings when we're trying to use serum to determine metabolic issues in animals. So.
I hear a lot of times they say you don't measure we measure the level of gas in the gas tank, not the fuel line.
Right. Exactly. So serum tells you what the diet's been the last 7 days. Liver will tell you what it's been the last 30 days, and that's really what we want to know. What's the diet been over a period of time? Because if you make any significant diet changes, it shows up in the serum pretty quickly and doesn't really tell us sometimes what the real nutritional status is.
So will you work with your local practitioner to get some sort of feel on that?
Right. So we see, depending on where you're at in the U.S., there's a lot of regional differences in mineral availabilities or mineral toxicities, and so your local practitioner again is the key. We work with them. They get the samples we need, and we can communicate with them and help make sure that we don't have problems with the animals. So nutrition's huge.
Well, thanks for being on the show today. Thank you for watching DocTalk. Remember to always work with your local practitioner. And if you want to know more about what we do on DocTalk, you can find us on the web at www.doctalktv.com. Thanks for watching us today. I'm Dr. Dan Thomson at Iowa State University, and I'll see you down the road.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.